I think a lot of players don't, they go into their first year of college or they go into their first spring training, and especially like the guys who like they want to please people. They're nice guys and they're just like want to do what they're told.
Right.
And at some point, you also need to learn to be your best coach, and like every single piece of advice you're given is not going to work for you.
Right.
Like maybe a certain percentage will, but I know for me at least, like I went into, I believe my first spring training specifically that I'm thinking about, and there's a ton of coaches at spring training. It's not just like the coach at your affiliate site. It's like you have the low A coach, the high A coach, the double A coach, the pitching coordinator, the triple A coach. They're all there walking around. They're watching you throw your bullpens. They're watching you in your lives. They all have something to say. And if you listen to every single thing that every single coach tells you to do, and you're just going to constantly make changes all the time.
Right.
You're going to have so many different coaches over the course of your career that there's just no way to not let that like, what if you have a great college coach and he takes another job and then you have a brand new guy come in and he tells you something completely different?
Right.
Are you just going to let your career get completely derailed and completely change, what your approach as a pitcher is because this guy has a new philosophy? So I think I've seen that evolution in you to now you have some understanding of why you're doing what you're doing.
Right.
And it's not just like because whatever coach you end up having this year, right? They're going to have some information that's valuable. They're going to have some information that doesn't apply to you.
Right.
And as long as you can be respectful and have that conversation with them and they can be respectful and have it back and forth, then there's no issue.
Right.
It's just when there ends up being a coach with an ego that says like, it's my way or the highway. And there ends up being a nice kid without that experience yet. Right. Like, I'm just going to do whatever you say because you must know everything because you're a coach.
Right.
I don't like my athletes to be like that.
Right.
I'd rather they ask questions. I'd rather they be skeptical. I'd rather they say, why are we doing this? Or like, I'll try it for a bullpen, but like those first 10 pitches with it felt terrible. Like, I want to know that. If it feels terrible and the metrics aren't good, like, I'm probably not going to force through a change just because like it's my pitching philosophy.
Right.
So I just think understanding like the collaborative mindset from it has to be there from the coach, but like the player also needs to understand that and like be willing to stand up for themselves at certain inflection points in their career when you just know something isn't working for you. If you don't speak up, like you're allowing them to derail your career.
Right. And I think that's something that I've learned just from being here is you see some of the most successful guys in here pick a lot of brains, but they pick them knowing that like, hey, I can ask you something and you can give me your genuine answer, and that doesn't mean I want to use it. And I think that's something that's been hard for me was I had to look at a guy as like he knows the stuff or he doesn't, compared to, hey, like I don't think very many coaches are telling you things with bad intentions. Like everything I've ever been told is good intentions. I think that's what you said, is being able to take what you say with a completely open mind and knowing like, hey, that may be a good idea, or hey, like maybe I shouldn't try that. But if I try to take every trade coach I've ever talked to and every college coach I've ever talked to and take all their ideas and combine it into one, there's no way I can do that.
It's the difference between like blindly doing something because you just say like that guy must know everything.
Right.
Like that's like some guru. Like I hate the term guru. Like if anyone calls me a guru, I'm like literally shut up. Like I'm never going to refer to myself as that ever. And you'll see these quote unquote gurus out there where like all their followers are just like, you can't even question anything they say because it's like, well, he worked with XYZ big like. They're just like an untouchable thing. Everything they say is like golden. It's like, that's not reality.
Right. But I think that comes into like, we're all so different in so many ways. Like, sure, I get called compared to Walker Buehler. To me, and like our hip anatomy could be different. Our limb length could be different. There's so many things that we could do different that even if I'm trying to do a lot of things like him, just because he does it doesn't mean it works for me. And so I think whether it's, oh, hey, this worked for this guy, so that's how exactly I'm going to teach you, like, doesn't always apply. Sometimes it works, and it's great if it does, and it's great if I can make a small change and it yields the results I want. But a lot of times it doesn't work that way, and I think it's trial and error stuff, and like I said, open mind, but at the same time knowing that, like, hey, Walker Buehler does this, I'm going to try this. Wow, that feels really bad.
Right.
And not just completely buying into, well, he does it, I'm going to do it.
Right. At the end of the day, like, you're allowing the actual outcomes to dictate what you stick with.
Right.
So in theory, like having this arm slot or this leg lift or coming set this way, like in theory, we think that might help you. But like, let's test it.
Right.
Like the vertical shin thing, like it looked pretty good. Like the pattern looked good on video.
Yeah.
But you were throwing 91.
Right.
So we had to recreate that back leg tension, that IR dominant pattern, and get you back to 95. So like at the end of the day, like you have to let the outcome and the results and the metrics dictate and the data dictate like what actually works versus what doesn't, versus what we think in our own little bubble and philosophy is supposed to work.
Right.